The moment I walked into my new house, I couldn't stop smiling. Sure, it wasn't fancy, just a small two-bedroom with outdated kitchen cabinets and carpet that had seen better days, but it was mine. After 14 years of throwing money away on rent, I finally had a place to call my own. Lucy's place, I said out loud, just to hear how it sounded. I'm Lucy Wilson, 32 years old, and as of today, a homeowner. I'd kept the whole thing secret from my family. Not because I didn't want to share my joy, but because I wanted to see their faces when I told them. Especially my parents, who'd been hinting for years that I should settle down like my younger sister Kate had. Kate, the golden child. At 29, she had the perfect husband, Mark, who worked in finance, and their adorable 3-year-old, Emma. They lived in a beautiful rental house in one of those neighborhoods with tree-lined streets and matching mailboxes. My parents practically worshipped the ground they walked on. I glanced at my watch. I had promised to be at my parents' house by 6 for our monthly family dinner. This time, though, I had news to share. The drive to my childhood home took 15 minutes. I could see Kate's SUV already parked in the driveway. Late as usual, but I didn't mind tonight. Nothing could dampen my mood. There she is, my dad called when I walked in. He was sitting in his usual recliner, beer in hand, watching some game on TV. Hi, Dad, I said, leaning down to kiss his cheek. Mom poked her head out from the kitchen. Lucy, honey, we're almost ready. Kate brought her famous pasta salad. I headed to the kitchen, where Kate was arranging something on a serving dish. She looked up briefly. Oh, hey, Lucy. Her attention immediately returned to her culinary masterpiece. Need any help? I offered. No, I've got it under control, Kate replied, not looking up. Mom, did you remember to chill the white wine? Of course, dear, the one you brought last time was so good, I bought 2 bottles, Mom said, beaming at Kate. I stood there, feeling invisible as usual. We all settled around the dining table. Kate dominated the conversation, going on about Mark's recent promotion at work. They're giving him his own team now, she said proudly. And a substantial raise. We're thinking of upgrading our house soon. My parents nodded approvingly. Mark looked uncomfortable but said nothing. That's great, Mom said, you deserve a bigger place, especially with Emma growing so fast. I saw my opening and took a deep breath. Actually, I have some news too. Everyone looked at me with mild curiosity. I bought a house, I said, unable to keep the excitement from my voice. Got the keys today. It's not huge, but it's in a nice quiet neighborhood and... The table fell silent. My dad's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Kate stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You bought a house? Mom finally said. Why didn't you tell us you were looking? I wanted it to be a surprise, I explained, my smile fading a little at their reactions. Dad put his fork down. Lucy, why would you make such a big decision without consulting us? Your sister needs housing more than you do. I blinked, confused. What? Well, Kate and Mark are renting, and with Emma, they need more space, Mom explained, as if it were obvious. You're just one person. My stomach dropped. I bought the house with my own money. I've been saving for years. Still, Dad said, shaking his head, family helps family. You should have talked to us first. Kate pursed her lips. So where is this house? What's it like? It's on Maple Street, I said, my voice stiff. It's small but nice. You're all welcome to come see it tomorrow if you want. I wrote down my new address on a napkin and handed it to her. The rest of dinner passed in awkward conversation, with Kate going back to talking about Mark's promotion and their plans for the future. No one asked more about my house. As I drove home that night, the joy I'd felt earlier had dimmed. I'd expected congratulations, maybe even a toast. Instead, I'd gotten disapproval and the distinct feeling that I'd somehow done something wrong by buying myself a home. The next day, I spent the morning cleaning and preparing for my family's visit. I baked an apple pie, Mom's favorite, and made sure everything looked as nice as possible. At exactly 2 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Kate was the first one in, her critical eyes scanning everything. Mom and Dad followed, with Mark trailing behind, carrying Emma. "It's cozy," Mom said, which I knew was her polite way of saying small. "The kitchen is outdated," Kate commented, running her finger along the countertop. "I'm planning to renovate eventually," I said, trying to keep my voice upbeat. "I just need to save up a bit more." Kate pulled out her phone and started taking pictures. "Just want to look at everything carefully later," she explained with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. We toured the whole house, which didn't take long, admittedly. With each room, their expressions grew more satisfied, as if my modest home confirmed something they'd suspected. "Well," Dad said when we finished in the second bedroom, which I'd set up as a home office, "it's simple, but it'll do for you alone." "Thanks, Dad," I said flatly. "We should get going," Mom said, checking her watch. "Emma needs her nap." "But I made pie," I said. "Won't you stay for a slice?" "Maybe next time," Kate said, already herding everyone toward the door. "Emma gets cranky if she misses her nap schedule." And just like that, they left. No congratulations, no housewarming gift, not even a slice of the pie I'd baked specially for them. I stood in my living room after they left, looking around at my little house. It might not be as fancy as Kate's rental, but it was mine. And despite my family's reaction, I was proud of it. The next few weeks flew by as I threw myself into making my little house feel more like home. I couldn't afford a full renovation, but I managed to paint the walls a warm cream color, replace the worst of the carpeting with affordable laminate flooring, and update the kitchen hardware. I even found a cute second-hand dining table at a local thrift store that fit perfectly in my breakfast nook. I hadn't heard much from my family since their brief visit. Mom called once to check in, but the conversation was stiff, and she spent most of it talking about Kate and Emma. I didn't bring up the house again. November was ending, and with Christmas approaching, I had an idea. I'd host the family Christmas dinner at my place this year. It would be the perfect housewarming party too, and maybe once they saw how I'd fixed up the place, they'd be more supportive. I decided to bring it up at our next family dinner. Walking into my parents' house that evening, I felt optimistic and excited. Dinner was the usual affair, Kate dominating the conversation while my parents nodded along admiringly. I waited for a lull, then cleared my throat. "I've been thinking," I said, "Christmas is coming up next month, and I'd love to host it at my place this year. It could be a housewarming too." There was a brief silence, then Kate laughed. Not a polite chuckle, but a full, dismissive laugh. "No one's going to come to your place for Christmas," she said. "Everyone's coming to our house, like they always do." I stared at her. "What? But I haven't even hosted once." "It's not fair that you get to have it every year." Kate rolled her eyes. "Lucy, be realistic. Your house is tiny and uncomfortable. Mine is professionally decorated and has plenty of space." I looked to my parents for support, but Mom was nodding along with Kate. "Honey, Kate's house is much more suitable for entertaining," Mom said. "It's bigger, more comfortable, and frankly, Kate has better taste than you do." The words hit me like a slap. I sat there, stunned into silence, as they continued discussing Christmas plans as if I hadn't spoken at all. They decided on the menu, who would bring what, and even planned the seating arrangement, all for Kate's house. I couldn't bear it anymore. I pushed back my chair and stood up. No one tried to stop me, no one followed me to the door. I heard their conversation resume before I'd even left the dining room. The drive home was a blur. I kept hearing Mom's words, "Kate has better taste than you do." As if that was a reason to dismiss me, to ignore my wishes. When I got home, I walked through each room slowly, looking at everything I'd done. The freshly painted walls. The new curtains I'd sewn myself. The bathroom vanity I'd stripped and refinished. Sure, it wasn't professionally decorated like Kate's rental, but it was mine, created with my own hands and hard work. That's when I made a decision. I wouldn't back down. I deserved to host Christmas just as much as Kate did. I sat down at my computer, opened my social media page, and started typing. Big news, everyone! I'm hosting Christmas at my new home this year. It'll be a housewarming party too, since many of you haven't seen my place yet. Food, drinks, and festive cheer provided. Just bring yourselves and your holiday spirit. Details to follow, but mark your calendars for December 25th at 2 p.m. I hit post before I could second guess myself. Within minutes, comments started appearing. Congratulations on the new house, Lucy, can't wait to see it, wrote my cousin Jen. I didn't know you bought a place, that's awesome news, count us in, replied my Uncle Dan and Aunt Melissa. So proud of you, Lucy, first-time homeowner, we'll bring the wine, commented my college roommate Tara, who'd remained a close friend. The positive responses lifted my spirits. Maybe my immediate family didn't appreciate what I'd accomplished, but others did. I went to bed feeling vindicated. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a notification. Kate had made a new post. Curious, I opened it and felt my stomach drop. Christmas at our house this year. For those trying to decide where to spend the holiday, here's a helpful comparison of the options. Beneath her text were side-by-side photos of her house and mine. Her photos showed her spacious, professionally decorated living room with its vaulted ceiling and marble fireplace. Next to it was the unflattering photo she'd taken of my living room during her visit, before I'd painted or updated anything. Where would you rather spend Christmas? Her caption read. Vote in the comments. I scrolled down, feeling sick. Some relatives had refused to participate in her childish poll, with cousin Jen even writing, "Not cool, Kate, both homes are lovely in their own way." But others had chimed in with comments like, "Kate's place looks amazing," and "No contest." The worst was seeing my parents' likes on the post. Mom had even commented, "Kate's house is perfect for hosting. Her taste is impeccable, and we're looking forward to celebrating there." I put my phone down, hands shaking with anger and hurt. This was beyond petty, it was cruel. And my parents were encouraging it. As I sat there, trying to process this betrayal, something else occurred to me. Something I'd been putting off dealing with for too long. I opened my banking app and navigated to the scheduled transfers section. There it was, monthly transfer to Catherine Wilson, $2,200, next payment in 14 days. For 2 years, I'd been paying Kate's rent. It had started when Mark temporarily lost his job, and Kate and my parents had begged me to help. I'd suggested they move to a more affordable place, but Kate had insisted her house was perfect, especially for Emma. So I'd agreed to help, temporarily. But even after Mark found a new job with better pay, I'd kept paying, partly out of habit and partly because no one had mentioned stopping. Now, looking at the scheduled transfer, I realized what a fool I'd been. While I'd been scrimping and saving for my modest house, I'd been bankrolling Kate's perfect lifestyle, the same lifestyle she was now using to humiliate me. With newfound resolve, I canceled the transfer. Then I made myself a cup of coffee and sat on my porch, feeling lighter than I had in years. 2 weeks passed, and I focused on preparing for my Christmas gathering. I'd received confirmations from several relatives and friends, and I was excited to show them my home. The RSVPs were a mix of supportive relatives who had condemned Kate's post and friends who had always been there for me. I was making a list of groceries when my phone rang. Kate's name flashed on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello? What the hell, Lucy?" Kate's voice was shrill. "The red payment didn't come through. We need to pay by tomorrow or we'll get a late fee." I took a deep breath. I canceled the transfer. "You what?" she practically screamed. "Why would you do that without telling me? We need that money." "Kate," I said calmly, "I've been paying your rent for 2 years now. Mark got his job back ages ago, and now he's even been promoted. You don't need my help anymore." "Of course we need your help," her voice had that entitled whine I'd grown to hate. "We have a lot of expenses. Emma's preschool, our car payments, and now we're planning this big Christmas party. We were counting on you." I laughed without humor. Yeah, the Christmas party you're throwing to spite me. The one where you're showing off the house I've been paying for. That's not fair, you're just jealous because you live in that tiny dump and I have a beautiful home. A beautiful home you can't afford, I replied. Look, Kate, I have my own mortgage now. I can't keep paying for your lifestyle, especially when you've made it clear where I stand with you. You and Mark need to pay your own rent from now on. But, she started. No, I cut her off. You showed me my place in your life with that post. Consider my help officially ended. Goodbye, Kate, I hung up. My phone immediately started ringing again. Kate, I declined the call. Then Mom called, then Dad. I declined them all and put my phone on silent. 10 minutes later, the text messages started flooding in. Mom, Lucy, call us right away, Kate is very upset. Dad, this isn't how we raised you to behave, family helps family. Kate, you've ruined everything. How are we supposed to pay the rent and host Christmas now? You're doing this on purpose. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I turned off my phone and went back to my Christmas planning. The next day, I turned my phone back on to find more messages and missed calls. I deleted them all without reading them and went to work. When I got home that evening, I was surprised to find Kate's SUV parked in my driveway, with my parents' car behind it. They were all standing on my porch, looking angry. I took my time getting out of my car and walking up to them. Finally, Kate snapped, we'd been waiting for half an hour. I didn't invite you, I said simply. Lucy, Mom started, her voice stern like when I was a child, we need to talk about this ridiculous decision you've made. There's nothing to talk about, I replied, I'm not paying Kate's rent anymore. But we had an arrangement, Kate said. An arrangement that was supposed to be temporary, 2 years ago, I pointed out. Mark has a good job now, you two can pay your own rent. We were counting on that money for the Christmas party, Kate insisted. Now we'll have to cut back on everything. Not my problem, I said, moving to unlock my door. Kate stepped in front of me, you can't just walk away from your responsibilities like this. My responsibilities? I laughed. Since when is it my responsibility to pay for your house? Since you agreed to help us, Dad interjected. You can't just change your mind. Actually, I can, I said firmly, and I have. Now please leave, I don't want to discuss this anymore. Lucy, be reasonable, Mom pleaded. Your sister needs that house, Emma loves it there. Can't you think about someone besides yourself for once? That was rich, coming from them. I have been thinking about others, specifically Kate, for years. I've been paying her rent while saving for my own house. Now that I have a mortgage, I simply can't afford to keep subsidizing her lifestyle. That's all there is to it. Their shocked faces would have been comical if the situation weren't so sad. They truly believed they could bully me into continuing to pay Kate's rent, even after the way they'd treated me. I think you should go now, I said, moving around Kate to my door. I have things to do. I went inside and closed the door. Through the window, I could see them standing there, looking stunned. Eventually, they left, but not before Kate kicked one of my potted plants off the porch in anger. After they were gone, I picked up the plant, repotted it, and placed it back by my door. It was bruised but would survive, kind of like me. Over the next few days, I continued receiving angry messages and calls. I blocked their numbers. I needed space, and I wasn't going to let them ruin my Christmas plans. Cousin Jen called to tell me that Kate had canceled her Christmas party, saying they needed to use the money for rent instead. She was playing the victim, making it sound like I'd left them destitute. I just laughed. As Christmas approached, I bought decorations, planned my menu, and cleaned the house from top to bottom. A few relatives called to confirm they were coming to my place, including Uncle Dan and Aunt Melissa, who had always treated me with kindness. My friend Tara offered to come early to help me set up. The day before Christmas, I put up my tree, a modest 5-footer that fit perfectly in my living room corner. I placed the few wrapped gifts I'd bought for my guests underneath it and stepped back to admire the effect. My little house looked warm, inviting, and festive. Christmas Day arrived with a light dusting of snow that made my little house look like something from a greeting card. Tara showed up at noon, just as I was taking the turkey out of the oven to rest. "This place looks amazing, Lucy," she exclaimed, looking around at the decorations. "I can't believe how much you've done with it in such a short time." "Thanks," I said, giving her a quick hug. "It's not fancy, but it's home." We spent the next hour putting final touches on the food and setting the table. By 2 o'clock, the first guests arrived, Uncle Dan and Aunt Melissa, bearing a bottle of wine and a small potted Christmas cactus. "Housewarming gift," Aunt Melissa explained, handing me the plant. "May it grow along with your happiness in this home." More relatives and friends trickled in until my modest living room was comfortably full of people chatting, laughing, and admiring my house. Everyone brought small gifts or dishes to share, and the atmosphere was warm and festive. No one mentioned Kate or my parents, though I caught a few sympathetic glances from those who knew about the situation. At 6 o'clock, just as we were about to sit down for dinner, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Mom. "Merry Christmas, Lucy, we miss you, please come over tonight for dessert." I stared at the message, conflicted. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but another part wondered if this was an olive branch. I texted back, "Merry Christmas to you too. I'm sorry, but I'm not ready to see you, Dad, or Kate yet, maybe in the new year." I put my phone away and rejoined my guests. If Mom was upset by my response, she didn't text again. Dinner was a success, everyone raved about the food, and the conversation flowed easily. People moved about my small house comfortably, sitting on the new sofa I'd splurged on or gathering around the dining table. No one seemed to find the space inadequate or poorly decorated. "You've done an amazing job with this place, Lucy," my cousin Jen said as she helped me clear plates after dessert. "It really feels like a home." "Thanks," I said, genuinely touched, "that means a lot." After everyone had gone home and I was cleaning up the last few dishes, the doorbell rang. Thinking someone had forgotten something, I opened the door without checking who it was. A delivery man stood there with 4 wrapped packages. "Delivery for Lucy Wilson," he said. "I didn't order anything," I replied, confused. "They're gifts," he explained, "from the Wilson family." "My parents and Kate." I looked at the tags and confirmed my suspicion. "I can't accept these," I said, "please return them to the senders." The delivery man looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, I'm just doing my job." "I understand," I said, "but I'm refusing the delivery." "Please take them back." After a brief argument, he finally left with the packages still in hand. I didn't know what was in those boxes, and I didn't want to know. Accepting gifts now felt like giving in, like saying everything was okay when it wasn't. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. My house was quiet but still held the warmth of yesterday's gathering. I made coffee and sat in my living room, admiring my Christmas tree and thinking about the past few months. Buying this house had revealed so much about my family dynamic that I'd been blind to before. The way they dismissed my achievements, the way they expected me to sacrifice for Kate without acknowledgement, the way I was always an afterthought in their plans. Breaking free from that pattern had been painful but necessary. For the first time in my adult life, I felt like I was living for myself, not just existing to support others' dreams. 2 months passed. Winter began to soften into early spring. I heard through the family grapevine that Kate and Mark were looking for a cheaper apartment. Apparently, she'd had to take a part-time job at a local boutique to help pay the rent on their house. Mom had called a few times, leaving voicemails that alternated between guilt-tripping and tentative attempts at reconciliation. I wasn't ready to respond yet. With the money I saved by not paying Kate's rent, I was able to comfortably make my mortgage payments and even start a small renovation fund for the bathroom. I spent weekends exploring my new neighborhood, joining a local book club, and having dinner with friends. One Saturday, while I was at a neighborhood coffee shop, I bumped into a man who lived a few doors down from me. Tom was a high school English teacher with kind eyes and an easy laugh. We ended up talking for hours, and when he asked me to dinner the following weekend, I said yes without hesitation. Our first date led to a second, then a third. He didn't seem to mind my small house when he came over for dinner. In fact, he complimented the work I'd done on it. He listened when I told him about my family situation, offering support without judgment. As spring turned to summer, I found myself thinking less and less about Kate and my parents. The hurt was still there, but it had faded to a dull ache rather than a sharp pain. I was too busy living my life, working, dating Tom, making my house more and more into a home, to dwell on the past. Sometimes, as I sat on my front porch in the evening, watching the sunset with Tom beside me, I would think about next Christmas. Maybe by then, I'd be ready to reach out to my family again, maybe not. Either way, I knew I'd be okay. My little house had given me more than just a place to live. It had given me the strength to stand up for myself, to recognize my own worth, and to build a life that was truly mine. No mortgage payment could ever be too high for that kind of freedom.